then you move them. And those who are not performing at all, you just find another thing for them to do, or drop them altogether. Now, this government has been running for close to 18 months, and one would have expected that a very thorough study of the performance of each and every minister, deputy minister, would have been completed by now. People have been complaining about some of them, and unfortunately, it looks like the president was very reluctant to do this reshuffle. Virtually, apart from Ajaku, who lost his job even before the reshuffle was, virtually nobody lost any major position. 3 of them, of course, lost ministerial positions. Rockman Bukhari, who was Upper Eastern Regional Minister, sent to the office of the President. Boniface Sadiq, who was Minister responsible for Zongo Development, sent to the Vice President's office. And then, of course, Otiko Jaba, who lost a major minister to become an ambassador. An ambassador is a much, much lower position. But in any case, she's lucky to have something. So virtually nobody lost any position. I mean, the suggestion being that they are all probably doing very, very well, which is not the case.
So your preliminary comments is that not much has changed, and the president seems to want us to believe that all is going well.
Yeah.
But you don't believe that?
I think she should have gone further.
You should have sacked some people.
Maybe not sack them, but...
Which is the most glaring area of deficiency in this government?
I'll leave that to Eric.
I mean, I thought that was obvious enough. I mean, even today, we understand the Kandahar boys went to sack the CEO of Tamale.
Security
it's been a major theme. It's not security.
Yeah, security is so very weak. People who do not have should not exercise legitimate force are exercising it. And this started right from the beginning of the regime, and we don't seem to be able to get over this problem. I don't understand. Kandahar boys, by now you should have solved that problem, but we still have it around.
So it's a glaring area. But the Interior Minister is still at post, IGP is still at post, National Security Minister is still at post, the BNI boss is still at post, all the people within the security hierarchy.
And you don't seem to get any suggestion that something very serious is being done about the problem. It poses a threat to our security. You know, I cannot imagine how people can just CEO of a teaching hospital can be sacked
by Kandahar boys.
It's
chased out.
Chased out of. We are going a bit too far.
I think so.
Something must be done.
Look, how do you see the reshuffle?
Well, as Dr. Jonah rightly said, I mean, it's a way of reshuffles are expected to re-energize government, introduce some new energies into the system to ensure that government performs efficiently. I see it as moving people around, making sure that people go to places where their energies, their skills will be needed. I want to believe that this is the first phase, because if this is the end of it, then we are in trouble. we are in trouble because I'm expecting some changes in certain ministries. Like a football team, you are halfway through the journey. You need to reorganize yourself. You need to get people into certain places. You need to introduce more energy into the system. I think people are becoming too complacent with this government. It is about time we inject some energies. If you move Otiko from Gender to Italy, and move somebody from Italy to Bolga, what do you want the person to do? Maybe you have work for the person there. And that is one thing we haven't come to realize. The president determines who should be in the president's team. The party may have a say, but it's the president who decides on where he should go. And if you move Abubakar Sadiq to the office of the vice president, and then you move Dr. Mustafa Hamid to Zongo Development, then it means you are telling us two things. One, you want to prepare the office of the vice president so well that they will be able to receive people from the Zongos, as it were. Or you want somebody in the office of the vice president whose human relations is very good, so you are preparing the ground for 2020. If you move Mustafa Hamid to Zongo Development, you are telling us that because he's a cleric, he would understand the issues, he would understand the Zongo Development issues and go and deal with the matter. I think I stand to be corrected, though, that this particular reshuffle was pushed by the Jaco factor. I think so.
So he wasn't really interested in doing a reshuffle. The Ejaku move had to lead to a new musical chairs.
Yes, but I also want to believe that the establishment of the ministry responsible for monitoring and evaluation may have also been a factor that may have accounted for the delay. Because what I hear is that the ministry responsible for monitoring and evaluation is responsible for evaluating and monitoring the activities of the various ministries, put its reports together and send it to the office of the president, so that the office of the president will have a very good empirical basis to do reshuffling. But what I was expecting was that you don't do only reshuffling at the national level if you have MNE. You do reshuffling at the national, sub-national and local government level because it's long overdue. So for instance, I'm expecting certain chief executives to be dropped. I'm expecting certain regional ministers to be moved around. I'm expecting certain deputy regional ministers to be moved to Accra. On the basis of the work the evaluation minister was done. That's right. So once that happens, everybody will sit up. And I know maybe it's on the way. Why are they struggling with security? From the beating of, chasing of people from a court in Kumasi to Kandahar boys to armed robbery to shooting. What is it? You see, I do not have enough evidence to conclude that they are struggling with security. I always want to distinguish between security and intelligence. If any time there is a failure of intelligence, security suffers. And that is what is happening. Okay. There are a lot of things that intelligence could have brought them up so that security will not suffer. It is intelligence that feeds security with information. So what I see happening is a failure of intelligence. The unseen security is not doing their work. Because if you sit down to allow Kandahar boys to go and then lock an MCE out, what was the Metropolitan BNI doing? What kind of intelligence did you pass on to the security? So I think it is rather a failure of intelligence. Not security. No security. So security is the implementation of intelligence. The security is the physical aspect of our protection system. That's the implementation of intelligence. No security moves without intelligence. You know, so, but I think in our part of the world, we always emphasize on security. And because security is not also telling their story, intelligence gets away with it. But Mr. Jonah, is the security problem not a manifestation of the kind of politics we have created? Azoka boys, Kandahar boys, Bamba boys, where you build a team of people who help you to, in essence, guard your ballot. Yeah. And then when they come to power, they become difficult. You come to power, it becomes difficult to manage them.
I was going to point out to Eric that this is a much bigger problem than just security. You know, towards the 2016 elections, approximately 18 separate vigilante groups within the two major political parties were formed. Wow. Some of them very well known. The Azoka boys, we just mentioned them, Kandahar boys, Rasta boys, so many of them. Now, the point to note is that these are more or less the militant groups of the parties. And so I would expect that if it is Azoka boys, the kind of grievances that led them to do a particular act would have been known within the party already. Okay. If it is Kandahar boys, the grievances that led them to invade the Tamale Teaching Hospital and take the CEO out would have been known to the party already. And so it is simply the politicization of the security system. They knew. They are part of the party. And so somebody there should have known. And it was up to the party to inform the security, deal with these boys, forget that they are part of us. But somehow it doesn't happen. We have so politicized security issues in this country that we are unable to move. And if this trend continues, I tell you, you may have an IGP, you may have whatever, and the security failures will be seen all over the place.
Quick comment on that.
Yes, I think we have to also blame ourselves as a society. If we are able to provide security of tenure for the heads of the various security agencies, it will solve the problem. Because an IGP anytime there's a change in government, then IGP knows he's on his way out. You understand? So if we have security of tenure, maybe you are appointed as an IGP for a fixed term of 8 years or 9 years or 10 years, you know, come what may, you will be in office. So when you are dealing with the people, you deal with the people without looking back.
And especially if you have been given a contract.
That's it. But in instances where anytime there's a change in government, you change the IGP, you change the other heads of the security institution. What do you expect?
You weaken the institution.
You weaken the institutions, and it becomes difficult for them to be professional. Very, very difficult. And it is not their making. This is not to say that they don't want to work. They want to work. Who wants to go and live in the village? Who wants to lose his job anytime there's a change in government? You understand? We are rational human beings. So what we can do as a society is let's try as much as possible and then change their laws. Let us provide security of tenure for all the heads of the security institutions. Once we are able to do that, they know they can survive successive government. And when they are going all out, they will chase you. Even if you are a minister or you are a government official, they will chase you because they will not lose their job. But that's the stance that it's difficult for them to react in that way.
Let me go through a raft of promises made by the NPP in the manifesto, in no particular order. So we will vote for MMDCEs within 24 months. We will create new regions. We will build one factory in each district. We will build at least one dam in each village. We will implement free SHS. We will restore nursing training allowance. We will introduce planting for food and jobs to revamp agriculture. These are just a few. First point, should we measure the government's performance in relation to its promises or in relation to our aspirations? Well, how should we assess? Because we need to set the game somewhere. So are we taking Akufo-Addo's promises and measuring his performance by same, or should we say what are our expectations as a people collectively? Forget his promises. Dr. Jonah, Mr. Jonah first.
This is what happens. The party presented its manifesto to the people, and the people said, it's fine with us. This is the kind of manifesto that will meet our aspirations. You're trying to draw a contradiction between the aspirations of the people and the promises of the party. But the party, puts together its promises in a manifesto, and the people look at the manifestos and say, this is the manifesto that will meet our aspirations. So there should be no contradiction whatsoever, or not too much contradiction between the aspirations of the people and what the manifesto the party has put before the people. Now, second, do parties have to achieve every single thing on their manifesto? No. Because a manifesto is something that you are proposed to do. Okay. There will be circumstances that will make some of the elements in your manifesto unattainable. That will be completely beyond your control. I'll tell you, Barack Obama said, all these prisoners at Guantanamo Bay will not be there within... at the time he left office, he had not been able to achieve this manifesto. So, in no country does a ruling party actually succeed in achieving everything, doing everything they said in their manifesto. It is up to the people at the end of the 4-year, 5-year term to say, oh, they have achieved.
You see, but the reason I ask the question is that you campaign on a political platform, but you must govern on a national platform.
Yes.
So if you say you will do, for example, create new regions, because certain people within the electorate prefer that, once you win office, you must look at the feasibility of the promise and also its ability to unite us as a nation. So you are governing not on the basis of partisanship, because I believe that's why you do all your work about winner takes all and all of those things. Yes. So if you are merging party promises with national aspirations, that could be problematic.
No. It is not problematic. It's a market. It's a market, and each party presents its manifesto.
Yeah.
It's a political market, and so the people choose the manifesto. The problem, which I thought we were going to raise, is that in our part of the world, nobody reads manifestos. Therefore, you cannot say that the 14.5 million people who voted on the 7th of December 2016 all read the manifestos of the parties before casting their vote.
But the media can remind them, and that's what we do. We remind them of the promises.
Yes, you do remind them of their promises. Can you, in all sincerity, say that about 50% of 14.5 million who cast their votes?
But who are we to say they don't know? They voted for him by a margin of 1 million.
Yes,
so they probably voted because of the manifesto.
I am saying that the ideal is you have read the manifestos of all the various parties and you have chosen the party whose manifesto meets the aspirations of the people. It there should not be one-to-one correlation.
Okay.
That every single thing in your manifesto meets the aspirations, but people have chosen that it is the NPP manifesto that will best meet our aspirations and voted for it. So the distinction you are trying to draw between the aspirations of the people and the manifesto may be valid, but
you don't think so? Let me take a quick comment on this before I come to you.
Yes, you see, the aspirations of the people, Ghanaians, are indicated in our constitution. And when you look at the directive principles of state policy, it is clear that the problem we have as part of our governance system, which is a challenge we need to resolve, is that we don't have a standardized national framework that will guide political parties in the development of their manifestos. Ideally and ordinarily, what we should have done was look at the elements within the directive principles of state policy and use it as a national baseline framework to guide all political parties. When it happens like that, there is some level of standardization. And then even with these manifestos, you should be able to break it down into annual, maybe year 1, year 2, year 3. If we were to have it like that, this midterm review thing would have been easier. 2, when you are in opposition, the data or information available to you is so limited that you should be able to tell them that there is some margin of error. The information that I come face to face with when I become the president or the leader of the country will be different from what I have now. So this manifesto promise I have, or the promises I have, I will not be able to implement all of the 100%. Give me a margin of error of maybe 20%. That is not always explained. Thankfully, in our constitution, once the government comes to power, within 2 years, you are expected to come out with a coordinated program of economic and social policy. Now, this means you import your manifesto into that particular document. Then on the basis of that document, a national medium-term development plan is developed. So that is how come you can have manifesto being imported into a development plan to present it as if it is a national development or national aspiration. But that is not good enough. So I think that there is also another governance gap there. Development of a standardized national framework that will guide all political parties in the formulation of their national party manifestos, which is premised on the directive principles of state policy.
Okay. Which is the biggest promise made, in your view, by the NPP administration? If you look at the things they promised, 3 SHS, 1D, 1F, 1 constituency, 1 million, and all these things.
If you ask me from the governor's perspective, election of MMDCs.
Oh, well,
that was the most important promise?
For me.
What about you?
For me.
Well, the free SHS touches almost every family.
Free SHS was number 1.
Yes, it touches almost every family. The election of MMDCs, I will agree with Eric, is a very, very important promise, but it is the free HS which touches almost every community, every family. It is the kind of policy, when fully implemented, will benefit so many Ghanaian families, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of class, regardless of religion, and even regardless of which.
And he implemented it from September 2017.
Yes.
Within a year, less than a year of it.
So it is very, very important because to benefit everybody. But it is even more important when you consider it from the development perspective. Can you imagine a population where over time, everybody has a minimum SHS level of education? The society will change completely, because if you have minimum SHS, even if you're not employed by the state, you can do something for yourself. So I consider the free SHS, though I agree with Eric that for us.
So did you think it was a good promise? Does it make sense as a policy?
No, I think it is a very good promise. I am not so sure that the way you have implemented it, we can sustain it for too long.
Can you repeat that?
It is a very good promise to spend a lot of money providing people with free SHS. I think the way we should, I listened very carefully to the Minister of Finance. The way to do it would have been, I want to give free SHS education to as many people as possible. Will the national purse be able to bear the entire cost? And is it possible to transfer a certain percentage of the cost to those parents who can afford? So that you can sustain the program as it is. But I don't know what will happen by the time this program has gone past five years. The huge amount of money that even now it is having a very telling effect on the budget.
So it was a good promise, but the implementation will be problematic.
Yes, I think they even at this stage,
so it should have been qualified.
I think even at this stage, there's a need for further debate on how we can make it sustainable.
But that debate is no longer happening because he's already implemented the first year,
no, he hasn't.
And he's doing the double track, multi-track system.
There is still room for debate.
You think so?
To listen to the public as to how best we can sustain this.
So, number one for you was
the double track system. Fine, is going to solve the problem of infrastructure. We don't have enough classrooms, we don't have enough laboratories. Therefore, and we cannot keep building, even if you had the money, we cannot keep building put more buildings on the Wesley Girls High School land, Achimota land, and so on and so forth. So that solved the infrastructure problem.
But it's not a permanent solution to the issue of
all the issues. There are several other issues related to the free SHS, and we need to look at it. It's a good policy. We shouldn't close the door.
But you didn't choose free SHS as your number one. You said, based on what you do, the most important promise was election of MMDCs.
Oh yes, yes.
Are you serious?
I'm very serious.
All the things,
yes.
Training. The president made 300 promises. We have tracked it. 300 promises. That's if you look at his manifesto, and for you, number one was voting for MMDCs.
Voting for MMDCs.
Wow.
Because that would improve local democracy. And once local democracy is improved, they can demand accountability from the president, and the president will do the free SHS.
So that was the most important promise.
Very much.
Election of MMDCs.
It is long overdue. It is long overdue.
Really?
If you elect MMDCs, you don't need to look up to Accra. You hold your MMDC. If your SHS is not working, if you have problems with SHS, you don't come to Accra.
Are you not confusing effective decentralization with voting for MMDCs?
Good. Effective decentralization can only happen when you give local authorities or people at the local level the opportunity to elect their own leaders. Effective decentralization is the transfer of the political, administrative, and resource mobilization power to the locals. Now, as it stands now, you can do everything but electing your own leader. It is imposed on you. But they give you the opportunity to elect the president. Why can't they give you the opportunity to elect your chief executive?
But how does electing them solve the problem of, for example, resources?
Good.
Finances?
If I elect you on the basis of your local promises, and then you tell me that you do this street light, you do this, and you fail to do it, you'll be in trouble. So what is going to happen is that they are going to compete to mobilize resources. And in fact, if it is made political, you get other political parties who will go all out to mobilize resources to support their candidate so they can use that particular district as a model. That look, you never voted us into power at the national level. But look at the number of districts we had. Look at the way our DCEs are performing. Use that one as a test case and give us the opportunity to govern and to work. You see, we have been, the power has been taken away from us for a very long time.
Are we not overestimating the importance of voting? I mean, you are making it look like, we vote for MPs.
That's right.
Look at Parliament. Is Parliament is Parliament at a nirvana? Parliament isn't the best.
No, but you see,
so how does voting all of a sudden create, solve the problem of?
It doesn't automatically solve the problem. It is one of the important reasons we need local levels to participate in governance. When you vote for MPs, you vote for them to go to Accra, to go and make laws for you. In fact, MPs are not development agents. If you look at it strictly, they are not. Yeah. The development agents are the local assembly members and the chief executive. If you have a chief executive who was appointed by the president, and this chief executive common fund is not coming, the chief executive is afraid to make noise. If he makes noise, the next day the president will sack him. But if the chief executive was elected by the people, and he has promised them that he will use the common fund to bring development, if it is not coming, the next day he will be on radio. And the president has no option than making the money available. If you have a chief executive who doesn't respect the people there, they'll find a way of showing him the exit. So I think...
But let's 2 points. Yes. Voting is elections are very expensive. CDD did a research that said that it cost an MP on average 300,000 cedis to get elected.
That's about $30,000.
Yes. It's more. 300,000 cedis is divided by 4.
By 4.
That's more.
Is it for
300,000 is 4.5.
Is it for
it can't be 30,000. 30,000 times 10. But that's beside the point. Elections are expensive. Elections are divisive. And we are proposing to vote on partisan basis. Aren't you further dividing the country?
No, you are not dividing the country. The advantages that you reap from electing our MMDCs along party lines will far exceed any. There's no cheap democracy anywhere in the world. Every democracy will have to cost money. But I agree with Eric, the benefit of direct election of MMDCs along party lines to the country will be huge. The first is the developmental effect. Now, at the moment, the president appoints an MMDC, he or she sits there, she absolutely no fear whatsoever that there is another party that is fighting to put its candidate there. And so, if at the end of the 4 years, he or she has very little to show by way of development, then nothing happens. But if we introduced the direct popular election of MMDC along party lines, you know that the other party is struggling, criticizing you and struggling, exposing your weaknesses to come to power. They will be competing in the same way that the NGC and the NPP have been competing to bring free SHS, to bring development at the national level. This would be the first benefit. The second most important benefit would be the question of accountability. At the moment, because the president appoints the MMDCs, all of them believe that so long as you are in the good books of the president, you are fine. It's the president who hired you, and it is the president who can fire you. So just please the president and forget about the local people and their needs. You will be okay. You will be able to maintain your position. If we allowed political parties to go in, and if we allow political parties to compete for the position, it will not be business as usual.
So both of you think it's a great idea?
It's a great idea.
They promised to do it in 24 months. We're in the 18th month.
No,
it's not looking likely.
You are confusing two issues.
Okay, explain.
The president in the NPP manifesto said MMDCs will be elected within 24 months of coming to power. He never mentioned political parties.
Good, but
now he has introduced the element of political parties.
Yeah, but he's changed the promise.
He hasn't.
If MMDCs will be elected in 24 months,
he has enhanced the promise.
18 months.
He has
will they be elected in 24 months? 24 months is 24 months is 6 months away.
The kind of
you can't. There's no preparation for voting for them in.
No. I'm telling you that you are mistaken. When the president said 24 months, he was referring only to the election of MMDCs, not along party lines. Good. The moment he introduced along party lines, yes, you have to amend an entrant provision.
So when did he introduce the along party lines?
On the State of the Nation's address.
No, State of the Nation's address. Let me explain why it happens like that. You know, the promise was...
the man promised that we'll elect MMDC in 24 months.
Yes.
So whatever lines, we don't care. We don't read the manifesto. But we understand English. If you say you elect people, and in 24 months you're not electing, you're telling me that I'm confusing the change of promise.
You know, after making that promise, winning elections, he consulted with the former heads of states. This is a major decision, a policy decision. Then he came out and said, look, after consulting with the former heads of states,
with the political parties,
yes, with the national parties. This is a major policy intervention that requires sustainability and buy-in of all political parties.
So they are advising that.
Then it was agreed that look, if we want to sustain this process, then we should elect MMDCs, but it should be on partisan basis. But if it is on partisan basis, then we have to amend Article 55 Clause 3 of the 1992 Constitution, which is an enshrined provision. Now, to be able to amend that one, you have to make sure that you do sensitization for people to understand. That is how come in September 2019, that provision will be amended. If it is amended 2020, we are going to have our presidential parliamentary elections. There's no way you may want to try election of MMDCs with parliamentary and presidential elections. This is a new project. So you do your sensitization, you do the consequential amendment and all of that. So 2021 is the most...
2021?
2021!
Oh,
you cannot elect...
But his mandate is for 4 years.
Yes.
2019 to 2020. So why 2020?
The current...
Then he's failed now.
No, the current chief executive's mandate...
He hasn't failed.
Will expire in 2021. You know that.
He's on track.
The current chief executive's mandate will expire in 2021.
But we vote for people on the basis of a term of government.
That's right.
The term of government is 7 December 2017 to 7 November 2021.
Do you know it excludes DCEs?
I'm talking about the president and his promise. I'm talking about DCEs.
Yeah, but there's nothing wrong with the president also preparing the way
for others to come.
For others to come and continue.
I can see people are very interested in this voting matter, so you don't want to derail it.
No.
You are happy with the fact that you have in 2021.
Actually, if it was just the election of MMDCs, you amend Article 243. That one he can even do it before the December.
Let me read a story for you. The founder and leader of the Progressive People's Party, Dr. Kwesi Indum, has lashed out at the Akufo-Addo government for postponing the implementation of a manifesto promise to ensure that MMDCs are elected and not appointed.
Yeah, I've read this.
President Akufo-Addo, then a candidate in 2016, promised that MMDCs will be elected. Although timelines were not very specific, he said the current group of MMDCs will be the last to be elected. Thus, before 2020, or last to be appointed, that's before 2020. However, the local government minister, Haji Halima Mahama, at a recent forum hinted that the election will be held in 2021. Addressing the press on the matter, Dr. Indum said, government's U-turn is a dent on its credibility. He charged Akufo-Addo to make good his promise. And then he goes on to speak on something else. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll look at other promises. There are some promises which are very time conscious. For example, he said, Accra will be the cleanest city in the whole Africa by 2020. Nobody forced him to say it. He said it himself. We'll look at that. He said he will build one village, one dam. There are many villages in Ghana. We'll find out whether there are dams there. Then he said he will do one district, one factory. And there were a lot more promises. National ID card, mobile payment interoperability, a lot of them. We'll review some of these promises and read some of your comments as well. This is the point of view. Don't go away.
Wherever the weekend sporting action happened, we will bring it to you here on Scorecard. Every goal, every dunk, every punch, the winning strides, and the winning volleys.
International media, he said, look, wait, sit and wait. Let me have a meal with my people. And I think that's the same cool, it's the same organization he brings to the field every time I've seen him play. He looks to me like somebody who has played over 50 caps already. Okay. But this guy has barely played over 25 caps for the national team.
All of the weekend's action in one place. Scorecard, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. prompt on CTTV.
We spice up your mornings with culturally enriched conversations, social interviews, and policy-oriented discussions that will keep you updated on the progress of the nation.
Because we're giving only those in their third trimester. So in the next 3 months, those in their second would be ready to receive the kit. And we're taking data at registration, which is before they take the kit, at delivery and post-delivery, so that we can analyze and we'll see the numbers. So from the numbers,
Welcome back to The Point of View. We're live on CTTV. My guest, Mr. Kwesi Jonah, who is a senior research fellow at the Institute for Democratic Governance, IDEG, and Dr. Eric Oduro, who is a governance expert. Here are some quick comments. I'm Prince from Spintex. I agree with Dr. Oduro. What the public don't know is MPs don't do development. With the allocation of funds into MMDC for development in their districts, it will be best not to create new regions. Bernard and guests, with this issue, my view is that we don't have to blame the NPP much about the security problems. Hope we've not forgotten about the invasion of their HQ with guns when planted there to give them a bad name. So they don't have anything to do but to create their own force or their protection. This is Nina from Choco. Let's address some key issues. Did you think that some of the promises are overly ambitious? Like he says, he will make Accra the cleanest city in Africa by 2020. That he's changed the sanitation minister now. He's brought a new person. That suggests that wasn't going too well.
No, but we also need to understand that sanitation was a new ministry, and that minister would need not less than 6 months or 1 year to settle. Sanitation was previously being handled by the ministry responsible for local government. So decoupling it on it took some time. I think that, well, we cannot say that they have not performed. They are laying the foundation, though on issues of sanitation, you don't waste time. So I'm happy he's changed.
Was it realistic to say that you will make Accra the cleanest by 2020?
It will depend on how you define the word cleanest.
Oh, my brother.
Yes. No, it will depend on how you define cleanest.
Have you been to Rwanda before?
I've been to Rwanda, I've been to Kigali.
Does anybody to tell you that it's clean?
To some extent, it's clean.
How do you need to define clean? Don't you drive through Accra? Can't you see the filth?
Accra, okay. But you see, when you say that you want Accra to be the cleanest, it is a standard, it's an aspiration. That is not to say that.
I think you should view it from the aspirational.
That's it.
Rather than
that is not to say that you'll be able to get to where Rwanda is.
Don't forget that even sanitation is a local government function.
It is.
And if you look at the funding for local governments in this country, you ask yourself, the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, how much money do they have the whole year for all the activities, and how much money do they have for sanitation?
So was it just political talk?
Then you go to Kwesi and they simply do not have enough money. So when the president made it in the aspiration, we are aspiring to be.
Are you kidding me?
Oh yeah, no, I'm not kidding you. But there's absolutely, given the...
So there's no way he can fulfill that promise?
Given the financial resources available to the
you don't think he can
local government units, it will be very difficult.
He can do his best. He can move it from a west scenario to a seemingly better...
But he cannot objectively, within the next 2 years, make Accra the cleanest in Africa. In Africa. You doubt it?
Well, you see, it will depend on the efforts we put in.
It's a simple question. Is it possible? I mean, is it feasible?
No, I think the amount of resources he will have to put on this will be so huge. This is the same government that is doing free SHS, where a lot of money is being pushed. So, Bernard, don't be too hard. The
promise was made in a very...
The promise...
I don't understand you guys.
No. I have told you that the resources required so huge that, I mean...
But look at the waste in the system. They promised that they will stop corruption, they will retrieve stolen monies, right? If you look at the leakages in our economy, if you fulfill that promise, it's not only tax money.
I thought we were going to come to corruption.
But if you say that the resources needed may not be there, the availability of resources was also a promise. That they will better manage the economy has been mismanaged, that the NDC government was wasting the resources of the people in bad branding and all kinds of scandals. So if you stop the corruption, you will raise enough domestic revenue, you will bring back credibility to governance,
and you push it into
whatever you want to push it into. I mean, is that not what, unless you're telling me that I am naive to believe in what politicians tell me, unless you're telling me that when people say something on a political platform, I should take it with a pinch of salt.
But quite frankly, on the political platform, politicians say all kinds of things that they do not mean literally.
Are you serious?
Yes.
So it means it's figuratively?
Everywhere. If somebody says that if I come, then Guantanamo Bay will close down.
No,
it's not one example.
I mean,
very many examples. No, I will draw all forces from, it's everywhere.
I disagree.
Everywhere it happens.
You see, we are fighting.
But let's just look at the promise realistically. I will make Accra the cleanest city in Africa.
Yes.
You and I know that the resources to achieve this objective,
I don't know that. I don't know that.
No,
I don't know how much. I don't know how much.
So hard pressed for cash, and a lot of cash is going into key promises like free SHS.
A lot of cash going to 120 ministers, buying them vehicles, housing them, giving them fuel.
Yeah,
prioritization.
Quite frankly, I don't agree with that.
I don't understand how you can say there's no resources.
I don't agree with that one. But even if all the ministers sacrifice their salary, there's no way Accra is going to become the greatest city.
Okay, let me read a few more comments for you. Before we
it's a huge problem, and the government needs time.
Okay, is Dr. Osae saying that reshuffle must be overhauling such that it affects every aspect of the nation? I think a reshuffle must be based on the president and maybe the political party strategy geared towards another electoral victory. In the case of Ghana and national development, this is Dikadi from Spintex. Dr. Dai from Kumasi says, good evening. Please, any reshuffle at the health ministry, the place is full of charlatans. Tell them to post nurses now. What will be the effect of the regional ministers once election of MMDCs takes place? Seems that this pledge will be an acne on the government. Trust me. Elon from Bachona. The president promised to protect the public purse, but he seems to be losing the battle, even though he appointed a special prosecutor who he thinks will help him fight corruption. # point of view. Elikem says, good evening, Bernard. I think Dr. Oduro is right when he said we need a national framework which will guide political parties. Ghana needs this, and it's high time we sat as a people to plan. Let's think of Ghana in 20 years and beyond. Dauburi Adam The NPP government has so far delivered on most of their important policies. The problem is our inability to feel the impact. I would suggest they adopt the growth pole theory in their policy planning and implementation. Joe says, I share the views of Dr. Osae on the failure of the intelligence rather than blaming security agencies. Example, heavy traffic jam at usually known places within 2 kilometers to a police post, yet it takes motorists hours in choke traffic due to intelligence failure to inform the authorities to send the police to the appropriate places. This is Joe. More comments. The free SHS should be given to those who attended public school during their JHS, but not to those who attended private school who can afford. The double track system will create laxity. Acquisition of knowledge is continuous and should not be experienced in breaks. Let's continue with the discussion about things like one district, one factory. You see, the promises were very catchy. That's why we remember.
Yes, but that's
one village, one down.
That's what
one constituency, 1 million.
That's what every politician wants. A catchy phrase that will send everybody. That's what everybody.
Then when you come, you don't implement it.
No, well, to be very honest with you, there's one problem there. That problem is that the number of districts is always going up.
254 now.
Now 254 now. At the time he made that promise, how many?
216.
216. So, you see, you are chasing a moving target. But by the time you fire, the target has...
Who increased the districts?
They did.
So it's not an excuse. You have 216. You will not finish doing one district. And then increase it to 200. So why should I cry for you?
So the number of districts is going up because of demand, and even if the districts had stayed at 216, I would imagine that once a promise of this nature has been made, the intention will be to do as many of them as possible. Because there are so many districts that do not need one factory. Those districts that are in already industrialized communities and so on, so you will need. But the idea is to do as many districts as possible, and
so that one too was not meant to be literally taken. 1D, 1F was not did not mean
all 216 assemblies. That would not have been possible.
No, it wouldn't be possible.
From the beginning.
Yes, Bernard. You see, every district has a potential. Every district has a potential. If we want to have factories, as in factories,
but a factory doesn't have to be a big factory.
That is it.
How difficult is it to do a factory?
That's why I'm saying that it is easy for every district to have a factory.
So why are you saying it can't be done?
No, when I say it can be done, we cannot do all of them at the same time.
Why can't they do it?
We can phase it out. We can do the metros.
In the 4 years.
In the 4 years, we can do all.
How long does it take to build the factory?
No, but you first need to identify the potential.
But you should do that when you're in opposition. Hold on. When you people say that politicians are losing credibility, is it not because of some of these?
No, I don't think they are losing credibility.
Because if you come and tell me that you should come and do feasibility, do you do it before or after the promise?
No, you do a feasibility to come up with a promise. And when it comes to implementation, you do a quick analysis to check whether the feasibility you did at the time of making the promise still stands. You do a review. But let me also tell you something in governance. In politics, and this applies to even international governance, you do what is acceptable, not what is right.
Huh?